What's up, guys? It's Jack McNeeler, LB Talk 123 here, also host for the Real Sports Talk podcast for LB Nation, and make sure to follow me on Twitter at LB Talk 123. Now, let's jump into this shocking news. Now, a few years ago, maybe even last season, you'd probably ask me, why is this pitcher up here? Why is Josh Hamilton? Yes, he's a great player, and he'll always be a Texas Ranger, right? Why is Albert Pujols in a Cardinal uniform? Of course, he's wearing red. He's in a Cardinal uniform. That's the team he's always played for. And who is this guy? And some of you baseball junkies would probably recognize that's Mike Trout. He's a great prospect. A year later, all three are considered to be, maybe the top three baseball players in the game, or at least hitters. And all three of them are on one team. We can officially say all of the power that was from the East of the years with the Red Sox, with the Yankees, have now shifted to the West. You have the Dodgers and the Angels buying out any player they want. You have the Angels going after and making a huge splash for Albert Pujols, then cutting their payroll, cutting Herron, cutting Santana, signing Blanton, trading for Hanson to save about $14 million, only to make the biggest splash of this offseason, the biggest shock of this offseason as well. Now, the Angels missed the playoffs. The Rangers missed the playoffs. But the Rangers were a much better team than the Angels last year. With all the expectations going into last year, the Angels kind of flopped. Yes, Albert Pujols turned it on after a horrific start. I don't think he'll have that problem again. Now, will Josh Hamilton struggle now with the Angels? Let's look at what he's done and, how we can kind of figure how he will do for the next 5 years. Now, Josh Hamilton has signed a 5-year deal, $125 million. Now, I had made a video on this before, and I realized I'd spent the whole time talking about it as if I was stepping into a Rangers fan perspective. I don't want to do that this time because this is about him signing with the Angels. Now, if you're a Ranger fan, you're probably not watching, or there's not a huge chance that you're watching a video about him signing with the Angels. So I'm going to try to keep it short with the sob stories here. I mean, honestly, I've heard Rangers fans crying. I've heard them yelling. They're furious with the front office, and I understand. I mean, this is the Rangers, in my perspective. They have gone through a lot of adversity. They're one strike away from the World Series. They made it to the World Series the year before. They have had great teams. They didn't even make the playoffs last year. But no one's battled more adversity than Josh Hamilton. This guy was on the restricted list for 3 years in his life. Comes back from baseball. The most talented baseball player, I think, one of the most talented has ever stepped on the field. Has some of the highest potential of any athlete in history, I would say. And yes, the drug addictions did slow him down. Yes, they did affect him. Long term, they probably affected him. And he has had problems in and out. He's had relapses. There's so much baggage involved with Josh Hamilton. But his potential, it's like, just you got to love the guy in a way. Sometimes, obviously, I'm not the hugest fan of Josh Hamilton, but to see what he goes through, he does seem like a very real person. When he says sorry, he's very sorrowful. And I think that, a lot of people look at him as a role model. And I think a lot of people, Rangers fans, look at him as the face of the franchise. And I think the one exception would be if the Rangers would have gotten Zach Greinke at a cheaper price, obviously, and traded for Justin Upton and maybe signed Adam Roach. Then fans would be like, okay, we understand we can't afford him. Let him go to a different team. We understand this. But the way that it happened, the Rangers missed on Zach Greinke. They're missing on Arte. They missed on Josh Hamilton. They missed on the 3-4-5 team deal. Looked like at one point they had all the leverage in the situation. We were talking about a week ago. They could decide what they wanted to do. They could sign Adam LaRoche. They have all these different options. Now their options are dwindling. They have to look at the trade market because there's not many options out there. You're looking at starting pitchers. There's just not much there. Anibal Sanchez is signed. Arte, they're not going to have a chance for. So you're looking at a perspective of the Rangers. This is the worst case scenario. Absolutely worst. And losing a franchise player in Josh Hamilton, it's terrible for the Rangers. They're going to have to find something. They always do, though. I will give them that. They're very creative and innovative on keeping their team competitive. Now, will they beat the Angels in 2013? I think we'll still have to see. But I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. They're going to say, we can still defy the odds. We can do this. Even though the baseball world will be focusing on the two L.A. teams that have spent 200, all these millions of dollars in commitments for the next few years and have, really just shown the baseball world the power's in the West. We can buy anything we want. To put Albert Pujols and Josh Hamilton on the same team, you're making a super team. Now, for the Angels' perspective, you're obviously very excited. I don't think all Angels fans are 100% excited about this deal, but you're making this team so much better. And there's not many other ways that you could do that would improve it this dramatically. You look at this lineup, it's the 2-3-4 of Trout, Pujols, Hamilton, the best. And I can't even think of any combo trio that would even come close to that. I mean, you look at Mike Trout, a lot of people would say he's the best player in baseball this year, and I wouldn't really argue with you. I think Miguel Cabrera obviously had an amazing year, Triple Crown. It's something to be extremely proud of and congratulate. I mean, he made history. But when you look at all the numbers, all the stats that we have now with the WAR, stolen bases, you look at the defense, all that put together, I think that going forward, I think a lot of people would say I'd rather have Mike Trout on my team, especially because he's at a position that is very hard to find guys like that. Franchise, fast, power, everything you want. All around great player. You have Mike Trout. You can bat him wherever, but I think in the 2-hole is, I mean, you have Albert in the 3-hole. He's never bat anywhere other than that, really. So you have him in the 3-hole. You have a guy who, in Pujols, I think is going to be much more consistent this year. When it comes to power, I think he might hit a little more for power because he struggled for the 2 months just tremendously. I mean, just absolutely terrible. So I think he'll be consistent, and I think he'll have a great year. Maybe one of the best years he will ever have as an Angel. Because you look at this 10-year deal, I mean, it's going to be ridiculous to have him playing starting first base at like 42, 43. I think by that time he'll be DHing or limited playing time. But you have a few years of just everyone who's in their prime with Trout, with Hamilton, and with Pujols now. And you have the potential to win a championship. You add that with Jared Weaver. You add that with the pitching that they have, the relief that they have now with Sean Burnett. He's going to add a lot to that team there. This is a fantastic team. This is a team that, yes, I don't agree with all the moves they've made in the past. Obviously, the Vernon Wells trade was just absolutely terrible for them, really, in my opinion. It's just a waste of money. I mean, if they're looking at this money to spend and save for these great players, why would you spend it on Vernon Wells? I mean, especially if you're planning to make big splashes like you have been doing. Yes, they do have some young talent to watch out for. Obviously, some good pitchers moving up the system. The third baseman, their top prospect, I'm forgetting his name right now, but I got to see him last year in the Midwest League. I mean, they have some good guys coming up the ranks, no doubt about it. But trading for Zach Greinke was definitely a blow to their farm system. This is a team who's going to rely a lot on spending money. And when you're going to do that, getting veteran players who have some injury risk, yes, that is very risky, especially with a guy who has a lot of baggage. When you look at what the market was out there, I mean, you have Michael Bourne, you have B.J. Upton. I mean, this is a standout player. This is a game changer. This is not only going to ignite their season tickets, just like when Albert Pujols signed with the team. It's going to be bigger media market for them, more attention on them. And how do they compete with the Dodgers after signing Zach Greinke? You sign the other best free agent. How do you compete with the Rangers, who seem to have all the leverage in the situation? Now you give them limited options, and you somehow get the Rangers' best player to sign with the rival team, and he will be playing the Rangers a lot within that division. So it absolutely amazes me that he actually signed with the Angels, even after the fantastic offer they offered for him. I mean, to sign with a division rival, that's pretty cold. Do I understand the deal from Josh Hamilton's perspective? Absolutely. It's the same situation with Albert Pujols. Somehow he matched Ryan Howard's contract. Now, I don't know how Ryan Howard got that much, but he is among the tops now, only behind A-Rod, I think, in annual average pay. So, I mean, you have $25 million a year for 5 years. That is insane. I mean, for him to get $25 million, exactly what I think a lot of people predicted, a 5-year right around 125. No, we knew he wasn't going to get 6 or 7. I mean, yeah, sure, a surprise team could have got out there and put out a 6-7 year deal, but it wasn't likely. And I think he knew that, and he accepted the 5-year deal. Now, the Rangers were only going 4. They were going 5 if it's in, if it vests or, with incentive, things like that, if he gets enough plate appearances. Because there are some injury risks. He's getting older. You don't know how his body's going to play out to that. But the Angels gave him 5, and he went for it. It's a fantastic deal for the Angels. They have the money to spend. They have the best 2, 3, 4 in history now, and they're going to make history with how well their offense will do in the middle of that lineup next year. Now, here's the thing for the Angels. Now, what is next? I think that's a question that everyone is asking. Arte Moreno, he's famous for going out, getting deals done on napkins. I mean, he went out and got what he needed to get done. And sure, a lot of baseball people are mad at him. Why would you do this? Just because you have the money? I mean, but it's a baseball decision. It's a business decision. He's kind of crazy sometimes, and he went out and got Albert Pujols 1 year on a 10-year offer, and then the next year gets Josh Hamilton on 5. It's less risky for the Angels than the Albert Pujols sign. I mean, if you sign him for more than 5 years, I think people will call this just a ridiculous signing. It's not the perfect amount years-wise. It's a little pushing at salary. I think $23 million would have been a little more realistic, and it saves $10 million off the contract. 5-year, $115 million. I don't think anyone complains. I don't think there are that many people complaining, especially when the Angels have this, billions of dollar TV deal. So they have the money. Why not do it? It makes their team tremendously better. Now, their pitching is not amazing. That's the problem. Is I think that some fans might have a problem with their starting rotation. You look at not being able to get Zach Greinke. You don't really upgrade from last year with Dan Herron and Irvin Santana. Now you have Blanton and Tommy Hanson. Tommy Hanson has more potential, I'd say, but you're not really having an upgrade. There's still some question marks and injury risk. Now, will they go and sign or trade for a guy, Chris Capiano, just to give him some depth, to give him some security there? This is a guy who's been great in relief, too. Maybe a guy like Aaron Harang. You don't know. They have a lot of options on the trade-wise, though. They could trade Pujols. He was mentioned a deal with R.A. Dickey. It doesn't seem likely, but I think Mets fans would absolutely love if he could be in a deal. I think a lot of teams would love to have a speedy Pujols. I do. I think that the Angels probably are more likely to keep him unless they can find a starter that's really just 1-for-1 on that. Maybe the Dodgers have been interested in some extra outfielders instead of going after Scott Hairston, instead of signing a guy like Torrey Hunter, which they weren't able to do. Maybe acquire someone like that, and they had the pitching to offer on the table. So we don't know. They could trade Kendry Morales too. He's a DH type. Now this last 45 seconds, I wanted to vote to Mark Trumbo. I'm sorry for not talking about him earlier. I don't want to redo the whole video. This is a guy who I almost completely forgot. That's how underrated he is. If you think about how amazing this Angels lineup is right now, you have Trout, you have Pujols, you have Hamilton, you have Trumbo. You have other complimentary players like a Howie Kendrick. I mean, this team is fantastic. I don't think they need to trade anyone, especially with all the injury issues and baggage that goes along. There could be injuries. So I think having security in Borges and maybe Kendry Morales is probably a good thing. If they need to get pitching, though, I understand why you would want to use him as a trade chip. But Mark Trumbo, one of the most underrated players, he could hit 40 home runs. This could be the best lineup in baseball if all of them hit 40 home runs. I mean, it would be absolutely ridiculous. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. Thanks, guys.